this is one of those paradoxes that I tend to find that I discover more and more of as I mature myself. I find that the more I mature, the more life is a paradox, that things have to be two things in order to exist comfortably. And this is one of the more interesting ones, and as I grow, I try to understand it more and more. There's always exceptions, right? So when I say nothing is about you, yet everything is you, there are definitely circumstances, there are victim circumstances that do exist. They are pretty rare, but there are obviously circumstances where you can be a victim. You've done nothing wrong, you're not doing anything bad. It can happen, but it's rare. And yeah. So when I say nothing is about you, that everything everyone does, it really is about them. Even the most kindest things that you can imagine, we do it selfishly. We do it because it makes us feel good. We can do it for a bunch of reasons. Just the nature of existence just isn't capable of us being outside of ourselves. So that's ultimately what I mean by nothing is about you. That we're all playing the same game, which is all we ever know is ourselves. So when someone does something, behaves in a certain way, does something you don't like, anything at all, it's really about them. It's about their emotions, the way they've been constructed, etc. The way they react to you, even if you do something weird or whatever, and they react in a certain way. It's really about them, right? Protecting themselves, which is something I think most of what we call personality is a protection mechanism where we protect ourselves from experiencing our own emotions. So ways of dealing with fear and shame and repressed anger and grief. We develop these personalities around avoiding these experiences inside. We avoid people, we treat people certain ways, we avoid conversations, we have conversations, whatever it is, it generally can be boiled down to that. So we're all living in our own existence. Everything we do is about ourselves. Everything, and there's no other. But that being said, everything is you. So if someone does something and you have a reaction to it, that reaction is yours. It's not saying that the reaction is right or wrong. It's got nothing to do with it. There are legitimate places. Anger is a very healthy reaction that I think has been vilified by modern society. And there is such a thing as healthy anger. But it is your anger. It's no one else's. So yet, nothing is about you, yet everything you can experience is you. And I believe the first step to true adulthood, not the childish adulthood that I believe most people don't really get past. I'm not saying I'm better than anyone. I'm definitely struggle with a lot of this stuff. I just enjoy talking about it and thinking about it. So that's why I make these videos. But I think for me, when I look back on my development, there was a few really big milestones where I realized, okay, I'm becoming more mature, or I had started to. One of the biggest ones was realizing is the ability to take responsibility. And it's a difficult thing these days because we live in such a litigious society that we just support each other to blame everyone else. You hear stories of people breaking into houses and hurting themselves and suing the owner. It's completely ridiculous. And I think one of the most powerful things these days, because it's so rare that we can do, is we fail, and we fail publicly and we take responsibility for it. Unless, I guess, if your intentions were bad, if you were in some way not acting morally, then it can be very difficult then, but it's still the same thing. If you're doing that, the best way out of it is to just fail publicly and try to make amends, rather than hide it. But if you're acting with morals, integrity, and you fail publicly and you take responsibility for it, it's powerful. It's really powerful. And it may not be in the moment. People may put shit on you and they'll use you as their own scapegoat because they're like, oh, this guy's going to take the blame. But eventually it becomes power because no one does it. People will trust you. You'll form better relationships, business partnerships, whatever it is. And I believe the first step to true adulthood is the ability to accept responsibility for our actions, emotions, behavior, and understand that it is all us. But that's where the dichotomy comes in, because none of it is personal. So we have to realize two things at once. It's all us, but none of it is personal. That's the paradox. We don't choose the way we are. We're not choosing our emotions or thoughts. I believe a lot of us think we can choose our thoughts. And it does seem that we can choose where to put our energy. But it is a bit of an illusion, because I definitely can't choose my next thought. I just deal with it as it comes up. So we don't choose the way we are. So it's not really about us. Except it is all about us, because it's our responsibility to take responsibility for all of it. If people do things, we're upset, that's us. We're upset. Nothing wrong or right about it, it's just us. And that's not their fault. But then us, whatever they've done to make us upset, isn't actually about us, which is interesting. So for me, that was really helpful. That, and then learning how to feel my emotions, losing the fear around it. Those two things, taking responsibility and feeling the emotions layer by layer by layer, losing the fear of grief, the fear of anger, the fear of fear, the fear of shame, all these things. Not that it's completely gone, of course not, but part of the journey was I did really push myself to try to feel and feel and feel. That only happened after I was able to take responsibility. There were distinct moments when I remember for some reason I felt like I needed to cry, but I couldn't allow myself to do it. And I think I was angry. I remember some occasions where I was angry at the time, angry at someone, probably a partner or something, just holding on to it. And then as soon as I took responsibility, so I remember the anger I was blaming them. And that's the nature of anger, is that it goes outwards to protect you. It will instantly protect you by you looking outwards at everything around you and not taking responsibility. Because in a way, taking responsibility makes you vulnerable to attack. So there is a place for anger. There is a place for not taking responsibility. But when it comes to healing and growth, then we have to start doing it. And if we're angry, like in this example, I remember I just realized how I had in some way contributed to the event, rather than just blame them completely, which is so easy to do, especially if someone's fucked up. If someone's actually done something that you believe is wrong, you ask them not to do it or whatever it is, it's so easy to blame them and get angry, but in some way, we've always got something, some aspect of it is our responsibility, no matter how small. Obviously, you can take that to the extreme where you blame yourself for everything. I mean, apply common sense. But as soon as I realized my part in it, I remember the anger breaking and I was able to cry and at least relieve myself of the grief or whatever I was holding on to, whatever the anger was protecting. So it's very important, and it's the first step to any measure of maturity at all, is to see that everything is you. You can take responsibility for everything that you can and that you feel and that you do. But at the same time, none of it is personal. It's not our choice. It is what it is. What people do is about them. And this can lead to some really peaceful experiences. And that's it, guys. Thanks for listening.